Good morning and welcome to a new video on this channel, and this is the second video of my two videos I make where I go more in the depth of my camera trap. If you have seen my first video, you saw that I talked a little bit about why camera trapping, then the location where to put up the camera trap and equipment. In this video I want to go more in the settings I'm using here on my camera trap. If you have a camera trap or you plan to put up a camera trap, you might have completely different settings, it depending on what you want to achieve with your camera trap. But I hope this video will give you some ideas and show you the thoughts behind why I choose the settings I have here on this camera trap. So for that, I think I had to move the camera closer to the equipment and show you the different settings. Yes, here my night camera, and I'm not sure if you can see the settings. I think probably there are a lot of reflection on the screen. The night camera. Of course, I have manual focus because the focus won't work at night. So I pre-focus on a spot where I believe the lynx will stand, and then I just lock the focus, and that's it. For the settings, I use manual, so I can choose the aperture, the shutter speed, ISO, everything I own, so I get the image I'm looking for. You might have completely other settings than me, but because I want the northern light on the sky while the lynx is here, so I need longer exposure, and I want to open the lens as much as possible to get much light in. So that's the reason why I first have f2.8. f2.8 means that I do not have a huge area where I have a focus area. So there's the danger that the lynx stands a little bit behind or in front of the focus area, and then I won't get the lynx in focus. But I need to have a wide open lens so I can catch the northern light. There's a little bit danger that the lynx is not sharp, but for the last years I just experimenting a little bit, and I roughly know when the lynx comes here where the lynx around stands, and then I will be able to get a sharp image of the lynx. f2.8, you might have completely other settings for the night. It depends on what you want to achieve with your camera trap. The shutter speed. For the shutter speed, I was experimenting quite a lot during the last years. But because of the northern light, I need long exposure time, and I even had exposure time up to 2 seconds. And you might wondering, 2 seconds for wildlife, that's quite long, and yes, it is. And probably it won't work for a lot of other setups on camera traps, but for the lynx, actually, even 2 seconds works. Yes, I will get a lot of different, or not sharp images, blurry because the lynx is moving, but the lynx very often stands completely still for several seconds and just look in a certain kind of direction. And the reason is, when the lynx is up here, he has a very nice overview over the area and want to. And if the lynx sees any kind of movement, he just fixes his eyes on this movement to see what's going on there. Maybe it's some danger approaching, so that the lynx can walk away. That means he stands very often still. So 2 seconds even work, but I get more blurry images than sharp images. So I was experimenting during the last years, and I went down to 1.6, 1.3, and this season I even had 1 second and just under a second, 1/8 of a second or so. Or I don't see if they're 1/8 of a second. I show you on the screen what I mean. And then I have ISO 3200. For this camera, the 5D Mark II, 3200 is absolute nice. It's okay. Yes, I will get a little bit noise in the image, but noise doesn't matter so much. I know there are a lot of videos out there where they look at noise and say, oh, we had to do something with the noise. I don't think noise destroys the image if it's not too much. I rather have some noise but a sharp image than no noise and the image is blurry. So I go for ISO 3200. And then yes, here my day camera, Canon 6D. With a 17 to 40 millimeter f4 lens attached. Of course, day camera again, autofocus on 20 millimeter. Then right now I have shutter priority. For that I experienced during the last years. Sometimes I use shutter priority, then I choose aperture priority. Aperture priority. Sometimes I got a little bit blurry images because the shutter speeds just were too slow because the light settings are or the light was too poor, so the shutter speed was quite low. So usually right now I use a shutter priority. And let me see, I'm not sure if you can see it. Again, there's a lot of reflection on the screen, so I tell you, I have right now 100 of a second shutter speed. That is enough for the lynx. The lynx doesn't move very fast, and 100 of a second is enough. And ISO, right now I have on 800 because right now we have a lot of light during the whole day. It's not very dark. We got more and more in the lighter time now, approaching the spring and summer. And my experience 800 ISO is right now okay. In the earlier when I start my camera trip, when I know we get a more darker time, and then I very often choose ISO on ISO, where I, but not the maximum ISO is then ISO 3200, which is a little bit too much for this camera, I believe, but I can work with it in Lightroom and Photoshop. And then I also have the bracketing where I go 2 steps up, so and hopefully I will get a nice right exposed image. For the night camera I have a flash attached, but for the day camera right now I don't. But in the beginning, when also again where we have a more darker time, also I have a flash attached to the day camera. But that's for the day camera. It's not much to say about it. I think for that you just had to find out your own settings depending on what you want to achieve, what you're taking pictures of. If you want to take pictures of kind of birds with your camera traps, very often they have a much faster movement. You need faster shutter speed and so on. These are my settings, and these settings work for me on this location. Okay, the flash. I mainly use a flash on my night camera, but I also use it on the day camera. Right now I don't have one for the day camera, but I sometimes need a flash for the day camera as well, especially when I know that the sun comes over the mountain and might shine directly into the camera. A flash might be very useful. In the beginning, when I started this camera trap here, I had some visits of the lynx at daytime or late afternoon. The sun was still a little bit over the mountain, and this lynx appeared in front of the camera. If you have then the sun, you might get a silhouette of the lynx, but very often it's quite difficult then to get a nice image. But when I have a flash, then the flash would expose the lynx while I have a bright sun in the background, and I might get a really nice image where I have these nice colors on the sky from the sun and then a right exposed lynx. I use Canon Speedlight 580 EX2. I wanted to show you the settings here on this flash, but the batteries are empty, so sorry I can't do that. Okay, but anyway, for the flash, I need a little bit be carefully using a flash here on this spot because of the snow. The snow is very wide, especially for the night camera where I have longer exposures. I very easily burn out the snow because the flash is just too strong. I never use ETTL when I on my camera traps. I always are on manual mode. On manual mode here, then I use the lowest intensity of. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but the lowest intensity of the flash as I can get. Especially for the night camera where I have a long exposure, I have the lens wide open to f2.8 and I have ISO 3200. If I have this flash a little bit too strong, I very easily burn out the snow and even the lynx. So I use the lowest intensity, which is 100 to 28 on this flash, and but even 128 can be too strong for long exposure and all this white snow, especially when we have a bright night with the moonlight and no clouds on the sky. So that's again where I use a diffuser on the flash, and sometimes even took paper inside the diffuser in front of the flash so that I get not as strong flash out of this here. I also, when I put it up, again I put it like this, but usually I always point a little bit higher up, so I just check it out when I put up my camera, do it a little bit that the flash is a little pointing upwards, so that it not goes directly to the lynx, but because of the diffuser I will spread the light a little bit, and then I will get flashlight on the lynx without exposing the snow. This is a little bit tricky, and I had to experiment a bit with it, but it works now, and I'm satisfied with my setups for the flash at this point. Now we come to the trigger, and probably the most important part of the camera trap. Without this one, you don't have a camera trap. That's how easy it is. This one here has 6 batteries, 6 AA batteries, and the batteries last for quite long time. Sometimes this one can stay out for 2-3 months without changing batteries. Here the turn on and off button. When I turn it on, now this one has no batteries, but there's the small LED light. You turn it on and then it's blinking. If it blinks 5 times, then I know that the batteries are completely full. Then it goes a little bit down, and so I always have control over how much battery are left in this trigger. Even if sometimes just at the end it's blinking 2 times, this trigger still has 2-3 weeks left before the batteries are completely empty. But I anyway change the batteries very early, so I'm always know that I have enough battery on the trigger, because a trigger without batteries, no camera trap. Then you have these 2 flaps here on the side, and behind these flaps are some buttons. I'm coming to it a little bit later. These flaps are just to decide how large area you want to cover with your trigger. You can put it completely like that one, then you just need some movement on the side, and the trigger will react on the movement. And then you can use these flaps, and you can decide how large area you want to cover with your trigger. You can take it all the way up here, which is then almost just a small part where you cover the area. I have also seen that some people use a kind of tube they just put on here, tape it on, so they almost just got the beam. I don't need it for my setup. I just use it like this, and then I point the trigger in the direction where I believe, okay, there I want this animal, whatever you want. For me, it's the lynx. I have the camera pointed to it, so I have this composition in my image, and that's it. So then I have the area covered with my trigger. For the buttons, behind this one you have 6 different switches which you can take off or on, and which you have on and off, there you decided how many pictures the camera takes when this trigger sent a signal to your camera that the trigger discovered a movement. I think I have it now on 4, which means I believe I have then a signal from the trigger to the camera, and the camera takes 3 images. Click, click, click. If you just want 1 image or 6 images, you can just decide it for yourself. I choose 3, it works for me, and I know that I get the images I am looking for. You also can use this for video, but I never do video on my camera trap, so I can't say anything about the video settings, so that you need to find out for yourself. These are the switches, and then you have these 3 buttons on the side. And let me see, the upper button, if I recall it right, is for how sensitive this, oh my god, sorry, my English is not the best, but if you put it the all way up, then any slight movement, the trigger will react on the movement and send a signal to the camera, and your camera take a picture. For me here on this location, I can't have it all the way up, because there's a lot of wind. Sometimes the trees are a little bit going around, maybe even the cameras are shaking, and if I have it on very high sensitivity, then the trigger always will react on the slightest movement and take pictures, and I don't want it. I want images of the lynx. The lynx is a quite large animal, and when the lynx is just a meter and a half from this trigger, I don't need the highest sensitivity. So I usually have this a little bit more than half, and then or let me think, I have around 70% of the highest sensitivity, and it will react nicely on nicely. I'm not sure if nicely is a word, but yeah, but it reacts on the lynx. The other button, there you have a sign of a watch, or this means here you can decide how fast after the trigger react on the movement and send a signal to your camera, how fast the sensor again react on the next movement. If you do it on the very, very low, I think then it's I'm not sure how long time the trigger react again, but I think it's up to 30 seconds or 20 seconds or so. And for me in this situation it's too long, so I always have it on the highest. So every time you get a react or detect a movement and send the signal, he is detecting and send the signal to the camera, and the camera take pictures. If you have it a little bit lower, then the trigger will react on a movement, send the signal, and then he has a break of a few seconds before he can get active, catch a movement and send a new signal to your camera. But I, for my settings, have it completely on the top. And then you have the lower button, where you have kind of sun. If you have it high up, it's at daylight. You put it completely down, it's at night. That means you can choose the sensor just react at night, at day, or you might even react on both, and then you choose the middle, which I do because I just use one trigger for the night camera and the day camera, so I have it on the middle, and it react at night and at day. So that is what you can make on settings on this trigger. I'm not sure if you have any experience with this one. If you have, if I said something wrong, no, please let me know in the comments. But that's how I do my settings, and it works for my camera trap. But anyway, when you put up your camera trap, you might need completely different settings, because your situation, the location where you put up your camera trap, what you want to take pictures of, and so on. So this video is just to show you my settings, what works for me and on my location. So if you have other settings, please let me know in the comments. If you have other comments, please let me know. I'm really appreciated to get some feedbacks, because I also, even if I have used my camera trap now since 2018, I still learn and experiment and try to find better settings, and yes. So I hope you like it, this video. I hope it was useful for you, even if you have your own camera trap, and if you're not and you plan to, I wish you all luck with your own camera trap, and thanks for watching, and see you next time.